That could be trouble. Somebody said we don't hang together, we'll all hang separately, so at least let's hang together. Well, the scriptures say that the heavens declare the glory of God, the firmament shows his handiwork, and a number of weeks ago we started studying, we studied the monarch butterfly, and then we progressed to the hummingbird. And all of these are simply glorious, they're simply creative outlets for the glorious personality of God.
Yes.
Like, what an awesome creator.
Yes.
Now, there are three ways you know what God is like. You know God by what he has said, the Bible. We know what God is like by what he has done, Calvary. We also know what God is like by the things he has made from his creation. In fact, Romans comes along and says that the things of God are clearly understood by the things that are made, even his eternal Godhead and power, so they are without excuse. And it's referring there to creation. And so we studied the hummingbird, and then we learned algae. 80% of all the oxygen on this planet comes from algae. Algae. It really is algae, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. If Christy says it must be true.
That's right.
And then we did a video that's on our website right now. We posted this website, I think about 12 days ago. I looked yesterday, and we had just under 10,000 viewers already on this one of our videos. And then we spent a Sunday morning on the stars, that God has created the heavens and the earth, and he calls them all by name, and so we spent time on the stars. And then last week we studied the lily. Consider the lily of the field, Jesus said. And so we learned this tiger lily, which represents women, because they are tigers, right? And they are determined. They look after their children, and etc., husbands included. Today we look to the ant. And this is an interesting creation of God. These little guys do a lot of stuff. And they can carry, I forget how many times their weight and size. And these are called cutter ants. And all of these leaves have been cut out of a larger leaf. You could, if we did a blow-up, you could actually see teeth marks all around these edges here. And here's what the scripture says. Go to the ant, you lazy people, and consider the ways of the ant. And what it should lead to is wisdom. You should be wise. And here's what it says about the ants. They have no guide, no overseer, no ruler. There are no boss ants. They all just do what they're supposed to do. And they provide their food in summertime, for the wintertime, and they gather food in harvest. Kind of interesting. Now, ants are dedicated to one another. Some of the ants are storehouses for the food. And this is actually an ant here. And the food is deposited into this ant. And that ant, that's why they're sized the way they are. And then when winter gets here, she allows them to feed all of this food out of her. So the ants kind of look after one another. And in fact, the scripture says that there are 4 things upon the earth that are little, but they are really smart. They are exceedingly wise. And then it talks about one of these 4. The ants are a people. They're not that strong, but they prepare their food in the summer. This is how, one of the ways that they prepare their food. Now, as we consider the ant, again, these happen to be cutter ants because they have carved out of larger leaves these pieces of leaves, and they carry them off. But they can't eat this. They don't eat this stuff. But the reason they carry it off, and when they're carrying it off, if a leaf is too big for one, they just automatically team up together and carry larger pieces back to the location. And at that location, here they are working together again on larger projects. And they will find dead insects or larvae or whatever, and again, they all team up to take it back to the nest. And the nest can hold as many as 5 million ants. And their nests go as deep as 20 feet in the ground. This kind of brings flashbacks to me because I lived in Texas for 5 years, and they have fire ants there, not like our fire ant. That fire ant there is a bad fire ant. You know, like when he bites you, you're in trouble. I remember I was on a off-road biking trip one time northwest of Houston, and we got there were ant hills everywhere, and the trick was don't put your feet down, you're in trouble. And because when you put your foot down, they would just like swarm. But they get pretty large in their nesting. They work together. This happens to be how ants survive floods. The ants all get together and with their larvae, and they float on the surface of the water like this. And so they survive cooperatively even in floods. Now, the reason they bring these leaves back, I'm going to show you more details of that in a moment, is because the food that they bring back is not for them. Ants actually farm. They're like dairy farmers. These are other little animals here. Oh, man. There we go. This is an aphid. This is a little guy. And in fact, farmers don't like aphids because they ruin crops. Ants control whole groups of these little animals. And in fact, these are called cotton aphids. I think it's because of their color. But they have different, and here again is a bunch of aphids under the control of the ant. They're like these mini animals that they look after. And so what they do is they bring the food back, those plants, those leaves that you saw cut, they bring them back not to feed them, but to feed the aphids. Now, the reason they feed the aphids is that the aphids actually produce a sticky substance after they eat. It's kind of milky. And that is what the ants eat. They eat the sticky white stuff that comes from the aphids. So it's really like a dairy farmer. They have these little, they're not cows, but they're aphids, and they look after them, they protect them from their enemies. For example, the ladybug is an enemy of an aphid, and they eat them. And so the ants keep the ladybugs away, and the ants protect those aphids. They tend them, they care for them, and they provide food for them. And in exchange, they get to eat this white sticky stuff from the aphid. This is another up-close farming of aphids, and another of the same. And they do that in various and sundry locations, and mostly under leaves, on leaves, and locations. And then they also take these plants that they brought back and they chew them up. The ants can't digest them, but the ants chew them up and into smaller stuff. And if you look into here, you can see pieces of chewed up leaves. And why do they do that? Because ants are also not only herders of aphids, but they are gardeners. And they grow certain kinds of fungus and bacteria, and then they're able, and as they bring this food back and they chew it up, prepare it for the fungus, and so the bacteria can eat it and devour it, as in this picture, then the ants get, this is part of their food. They eat this fungus and they eat the bacteria. So what an amazing thing. God has created this minuscule little guy who's so complex, has so many orderly functions. And of course, when we look at these kinds of things, we cannot help but reflect the great and glorious personality of good. Can you imagine the creativity of this person? Why would he spend so much effort just on the ant? Answer? Because he wants you and I to learn from the ant. Go to the ant. Learn his ways. A lot of people strong. They know how to make preparations. So, that's it for today on the ant. Next Sunday, on what subject will be.